Let's start with a line chart. But what if I wanted to see a few points that dropped as compared to the previous period highlighted? Nice. Maybe a slight touch up? I like it. Hey, let's just also make that drop percentage dynamic so that it dazzles. Hey, excuse me, but exactly how many points are highlighted? Ah, nice. Beauty with brains. Let's just go make this chart in Power BI. You've already seen my little skit with the chart, but hey, take a look at the chart. How does it work? And let's just understand the moving parts of the chart before we start to make it. I'm in Power BI, and that's where I have built this nice highlighted line chart. And this chart highlights all the points that dropped as compared to the previous period. And I can select the drop percentage here. Right now, my drop percentage is 40%. Maybe if I just change that to 60%, I'm going to get a lot fewer points highlighted because the drop was significantly less. I can change the month from here, pick up any other month and just take a look at that. And obviously, as I move more stricter, less and less points are going to be highlighted. If I become more lenient, more and more points in the line chart are going to be highlighted. Now, this line chart has got a few moving parts in terms of logics that we need to understand first before we start to build the chart. The first part at the onset is the line chart, of course. So here is my line chart, and that's the first thing that we obviously have to make in order to make the chart. The second thing that notices our eye is definitely the markers. So you can see that all the points which are highlighted on the chart are kind of highlighted with this marker, and we need to learn how to make this marker. You'll also notice that behind those markers, there's a slight accent bar at the back, which pops up the markers a bit. If you want, we can also make that in the line chart. We obviously have the dynamic drop percentage, so we can change how much drop do we like to see. And finally, we also have a meaningful title on top of the chart, which is something that tells us how many number of days dropped more than 20%, which is the value selected in the entire chart, so that the summarization of chart is very easy to take a look at. All right, with the logic laid out, let's build the chart. The most important part or the moving metric in this chart is to find out that how much growth or drop has happened as compared to the previous period, and that is going to be our benchmark to highlight the value or not. So I've got this simple matrix visual here, and that's where we will start because we can take a look at the numbers, validate the numbers, and then move that to a line chart. So I've got year, and I've got date, and I've got total sales, and I'd like to be able to compare the current date sales with the previous date sales. Now, if you just take a look at this particular table for a quick second, you're going to see that there are a few days missing. So 5th of January is missing here because on the 5th of January, we did not have a sale. Take a look at 11th of January here. We did not have a sale right here as well. So if you absolutely want to compare it to the previous day, then 11th of Jan is going to be compared to 10th of Jan, and that is fine. We can simply use a previous day function to be able to do that. But a lot of times your need is going to be slightly more sophisticated. That means that instead of comparing the 12th Jan number with the 11th Jan number that does not exist, I instead want to compare that with the previous available number. That means this number, which is 45, and that's how my comparison is going to go in this particular chart. In case you just want to compare it with previous day, you can use the previous day function. But in case the need is slightly more sophisticated, we will write a custom logic to compare it with the previous available day. All right, let's just start writing the logic for a new measure that I have created called the previous value. And what's the logic for that? So what I want to do is I want to be able to take a look at all the previous dates before 12th of January. So if I'm trying to get to this particular number, I will take a look at all the previous dates right here, all of these dates. And then from all of these dates, I will pick up the max date and then find the number for that. That's going to be my logic. So for my first step, obviously, is to find all the previous dates and then find the max date from that. So in the formula, I'm going to start writing something like the current date itself. So what's my current date? And that date is going to be compared to the previous date. So I'm going to declare a variable here called the current date. And that is going to be, let's say, the selected value of the calendar date column. And let's just return that. So I'll just say return, and I'm just going to say current date, press enter, and against the very date, I just get the date itself. So against 12th of January, I get 12th of January, no fuss about it. Now against the current date, I want to compare all the previous dates. And for that, I will declare another variable. So I'll just say var, and I'm going to say this is my previous date. And this is going to be the previous date that I'm trying to get to. So I'm just trying to first form a table of all of the dates, and I'm trying to get to this particular date. Now, note that the 10th of January is the date when the sales exist. I can also get to 11th of January, but I don't want to get to 11th of January because the sales does not exist on that date. So I want to get to 10th of January and not the 11th of January. Let's just start creating a table. So I'll just use the filter function. So I'll say, hey, I want to use the filter function. And I want to pick up the date not from the calendar, but from the sales table, because it's the sales table where the dates are missing, not the calendar table. So I'll say, go to the sales table, but just one column, so sales date column. And why don't you compare the sales date with it should be less than equal to the current date, which is the date that I have selected. So that is my filter function. So what this function is saying is that, hey, make a list of all the available dates. So 11th January is not going to be there in the sales table. 10th January is going to be there in the sales table. So it has made these 3 rows in this filter table. And I'm just saying that please take a look at all of the dates, and they should be less than the current date. That means they should be smaller than the 12th of January. Now, this filter function obviously is going to give you an error because it's returning a table and we can't feed a table. So I just don't really want to feed a table. I just want to pick up the max date from that. So I can use the max x function to use this particular table and extract the date in from here. So I'll just use the max x and I'll just return the previous date. So I'll just return the previous date and press enter. Now you can see that against the 12th of January, I get the 10th of January, and that is beautiful because the 10th of January does exist in the sales table and also has the number. Now, for the 10th of January, I can just simply calculate the value and I can say, hey, var previous value, and that is going to be my calculate, my total sales, where the calendar date is equals to the previous date that we just declared. And let's just return the previous value here. So previous value, press enter. And now if you take a look that against the 12th of January, I am getting the number 45, which is absolutely brilliant because I now want to compare my data against the previous available data, not the actual previous date. And obviously we need to get rid of that, and that is a simple custom logic which I'm just going to build it in a while, but that gives me the base logic to get started with, through which I'm going to find the growth rate. Now that I have both the numbers, I have 123 for the 12th of January, I have the 45 for the 10th of January. I'm going to compare both these numbers and find, is there a growth or is there a drop? The next logical metric to calculate is what has been the drop percentage at a certain cutoff. And let's just manually define the cutoff at the moment, which is, let's say, 50%. To do that, I'm going to create a new measure called the drop percentage, and I'll start writing my calculation. The very first thing to do is to simply declare a variable called the previous available value, which is the previous value, the metric that we just calculated a while ago, which is this particular number. After that, we can declare a current day variable, which is where we will capture whatever is the sales today. We can then simply declare a check that, hey, are the two numbers present or not? Because only if the two numbers are present, I'll then be able to calculate growth. So that means that both of these numbers, the current day number and the previous day number, they should be present. If they are not, I would not be able to calculate the growth. I finally declare the variable for what is going to be my growth calculation, which is nothing but the current day divided by the previous day and -1. And then I finally declare a simple if condition after the return statement, and I check that in case this particular condition is true, then please perform the growth calculation, which is right here, and the growth should be less than a static 50%. That means if the sales as compared to the previous available date has dropped by more than 50%, then give me the growth, which is the same value. Just give me the growth percentage. And if I now commit to this particular formula and I just kind of press enter, you're going to see that into the entire table, I'm going to only see those percentages where the growth has dropped more than 50% and things like that. And that's my data at the moment. At this stage in our formula, the problem is that our growth percentage through which we are checking is static. That means this 0.5% is hard-coded. I don't want that. I want that control to be in the hands of the user. The user can see that what is the dynamic percentage that he or she wants to compare it to, for which we're going to create a dynamic table and a fields parameter through which we can control this. Now, I've already done that. I'm just going to show you how did I do that. I went to the modeling tab. In the new parameter, I create a numeric range, and the numeric range is going to be a decimal number between 0 and 1. This is not going to be 20, this is going to be 1, and the increment is going to be, let's say, 10%. So 0.1 is going to be the increment. I give it a name and I add a slicer to this page, and you will have a slicer to this page. Now recall that we did have a slicer when we were making a line chart. That's the slicer that we're trying to make. Now, once you kind of click on create, you're going to have a slicer on the page. I will not do that because I've already done that. And I can just magically bring the slicer inside of the page. Now this slicer is made up of from this particular table, and this table also comes along with a measure calculated. That means what is the value in the slicer selected? That value is already reflected in the drop range value. So if I just drag this to my visual right here and I convert that to a card visual, you're going to see that this is going to show me whatever is there in the slicer. So if I just move that on the right, shows me 50%. If I move that on the left, it shows me 30%. That is nice. Now this particular measure is going to reflect in my calculation, which is the drop percentage, and I can just instead change that negative 0.5 hard-coded to the drop range value that got inserted automatically. Now if I just click on that, you're going to see that I have the ability to change the values as compared to the slicer. So if I just make it very, very lenient, just take 20%, you're going to see that a lot more values are highlighted which are greater than 20% increase. So 22 is also highlighted right here. If you're enjoying the video so far, I'd like to give a big shout out about the courses that I have on Power BI, especially DAX, data modeling, and the M language courses. In case you'd like to level up your skills, learn the fundamentals really, really well, and then start to solve more advanced, more sophisticated problems, understand the logic behind the problem, and then even apply that logic to your own data, you're going to find my courses incredibly helpful. Hundreds and hundreds of students have joined my courses and they have benefited from that. In case you're interested, the link is down in the description of the video. Let's get back. The next thing that we're trying to build is nothing but the marker in our matrix here. So here is going to be the overview of what the marker logic is. So if you just imagine for a quick second the line chart that we have trying to build here, and every drop which is going to be significant, which is marked by the 20% drop right here, is going to be marked in the value here. So let's just say that we have a drop right here, and I'd like to be able to highlight this using a marker. But the thing is that the marker is only going to be available for all the places where the drop is more than 20%. So that means maybe the marker is going to be here and maybe the marker is going to be here for only those places. Now for the drop calculation, we've already made that. Wherever we see the drop calculation, that's exactly where we want to show the value. What value? The very sales value, which is this particular value, which is right here. And we're just going to convert those values into a dot instead. So let's just go take a look at the calculation for a marker. The calculation is exactly the same, no difference whatsoever, the same variables that we just declared for the drop calculation percentage. But in the if condition, I'm just saying that if this particular condition is true, then I just want the very sales value instead of the growth value. And that's all about it in this measure. If I just happen to drag this measure onto my visual, you're going to see that the marker values appear, which is the current sales days values, only where the drop percentage is right here. And both of these values, the drop percentage and the marker, are now controlled by the slicer. Next up is the beautiful accent bar that we took a look at. In case you don't want to make it, you can omit this calculation. In case you want to make it, you can carry on with this calculation. Now recall again the line chart once again, and we had the line chart something like this. This was the drop percentage and this was the drop percentage. Not only did we have the marker, but we also had a slight bar at the back, which was the accent bar, something like this, which was just giving a little pop off to the value, which was displayed right here. Now this bar is going to be obviously only for the marker. So you will have a bar here, you will have a bar here, but the bar is going to have a certain height, and we will define a manual height in our calculation so that the bar just stands tall. It doesn't really limit itself to the marker value here. So how are we going to make that particular thing? So let's just see this particular calculation, which is the bar calculation. Again, the very same calculation, no difference whatsoever. But in case this particular condition is true, I just want the bar height to be 350, 300, 350, doesn't matter. Just give it a bar height and you're good to go. If you happen to drag this calculation off to your visual, you're again going to see the numbers displayed only for those values where the marker exists. With our calculations being almost set, let's just convert the matrix visual that we were playing around with up until now to test out the calculation and convert that into a line chart. So I'm going to go ahead and change this visual to a line chart. But which line chart are we trying to make? We're trying to make this particular line chart, which is where we have the line as well as the bar. The line chart right here, line and the stacked column chart. If I just click right here, this is going to convert into a line and stacked column chart. Doesn't look anything close to what we are trying to build, but let's just hang on for a bit. So in the axis right here, I just want to see the numbers, which are the day numbers. So I just remove the year and the date. And in the axis, I'm just going to maybe go to my calendar table, and I've created a special column called the day column, which I'm just going to drag it right here so that I just see the day numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. I'm also going to add a slicer for the year and month coming off from my calendar table right here so that I restrict the values in the line chart to only about 30 days, which is 1 month. And finally, I'll start to prune off all the useless values from the line chart and just make the relevant values appear in the chart. So first things first, you can just see that in the line, I want to see the total sales. So I can just drag my total sales from here to the line value right here. I don't need the previous value. I can just happen to delete that. The drop percentage is going to be appearing in the tooltips, so I can just drag that from here and put that in the tooltips. The marker is going to be along with the line, so I can just drag that right here. And the bar is going to be in the axis right here. And you can now start to see that the chart looks a bit like what we are trying to build. You can see that we have a chart, and whatever markers are highlighted right here, they are not quite the look that we're trying to get, but hey, the chart is ready. So all the markers also have the accent bar at the back. Now, if you happen to change that, let's say to the month of Jan or Feb, this is just going to work fine. If I happen to increase the threshold, this is going to only capture just a few values. If I keep the formatting of the chart aside for a while, the one thing that does not look good on the chart is the title itself. I'm very particular about the titles. In case you do not know how to make good titles for your charts, I will highly recommend that you watch another video of mine. But hey, we want a better title than this. So what I want is that in case the chart is large and there are a lot of values, the user should not have to count that how many values are there. At the moment they are apparent, there are 2 values, but I want the title to tell me what number of points are highlighted in the chart. Now that obviously is a custom calculation that we'll have to do, count the number of values which are in the chart. Now how do we do that is something that is the logic that I'm going to talk about now. So what we're trying to do here is that if I have to find out the number 2, then I have to go ahead and make a table. In the table, I will write all my dates. So I will just write my dates. So the first, the second, the third, the fourth, all the dates right here are going to come here. And wherever I have the marker, I will just write the marker value against the date. So this is going to be my first date. This is going to be the second date against which I have the marker. And I will just write the value 1 and 1. And now if I happen to sum this particular column, this is going to give me the answer 2. And that is the answer 2 that I will stick it in my title. Now to be able to do this calculation, we first have to build this little table, which is a summary table of all the dates. And then in that virtual table, I have to add a column to do these calculations, which is where it shows 1, wherever the value exists. And then I want to sum it up. Now I've already done the calculation. If you didn't understand the logic, here is the calculation for you to take a look at. It just looks long. It's just the very same calculation that we have been trying to do. So the summarize function just creates that virtual table with 1, 2, 3, 4, the dates right here. All the dates are mentioned. And the add columns function creates a check. In the check, we are creating all of what we have done in terms of variables just a while ago. And we are just trying to see that whenever you have a growth percentage greater than the threshold that we have marked in the slicer, it just labels that as 1. So you have 2 1s right here. And then eventually I just put that add columns function in the sumx function, and I just sum that check column right towards in the end. Now this entire variable, which is all of this gigantic calculation, gives me the count of the months, which is how many months are there to count. And then I just add some fancy labels along with that. So in the certain year and the certain month, I just want to count the number of months that are there, dropped more than X percentage, blah, blah, blah. And this actually creates a label. Now, we have to place the label. So let's just go ahead and select the chart. And in the chart, go over to the formatting. In the formatting, I will just go over to the title. In the title, I'm just going to click on the dynamic title, which is the FX, and I will provide my own value, which is nothing but my title right here. Click on OK, and that is my beautiful title. In Feb 2011, 2 days dropped more than 50%, and that looks so much better than slapping a generic title. Now, if you happen to just change that, let's just make it March. Now there are 4 days which are kind of dropping off, and that is what you can just see it right here. Once we have the base chart ready and you make a few hundred clicks to format the chart and make it look a certain way, this is going to appear something like this in all its beauty, and you can then hand it off to the person who's watching this. Now, if you happen to just maybe decrease a threshold or increase a threshold, the chart is going to look absolutely fantastic for you to present it in your reports.